All right, guys, your quiz tomorrow is 10 questions. 10 questions. For 8 of those 10, they're going to tell you exactly what to do. There's going to be 2, like this first section where it says solve each equation by factoring. When it tells you to solve by factoring, then you know you can do what? You can factor it, right? If it tells you to solve by factoring, that's how you have to do it. If they tell you what to do, that's what you have to do. So when we solve by factoring, we make sure that everything is on one side set equal to 0, right? Then we multiply A times C. So 1 times 24. What are the factors of 24 that multiply to give you a positive 24, but add to give you a negative 10? So x minus 6, x minus 4. When you solve by factoring, whatever your 2 things are that you've broken it down into, you then just set that equal to 0. So what are your 2 answers here? X equals 6 and x equals 4. That's it. Just that easy. So you're going to have 2 that will tell you solve by factoring. All right, here's another one. Can I go ahead and solve this right now the way that it's written? No, I have to move this negative 10 over. Remember, everything has to be on one side set equal to 0. So I have x squared minus 7x, what? Plus 10 equals 0. When you move to the other side of the equal sign, your sign changes. So now we're going to break this down into 2 binomials. X in the front, A times C, 1 times 10. What are the factors of 10 that are going to multiply to give you 10, but add to give you negative 7? Negative 5 and negative 2. And then what do you do with each parenthesis? You set it equal to 0. So what does x equal in the first one? X equals 5. And what does x equal here? 2. Perfect. That's it.
How many questions do you get?
2. Okay, there's 2 that say solve by factoring. Then there's going to be 2. Again, you guys can practice all these. But then there's going to be 2 that say solve each equation by what? What does that say? Taking the square root. So if you had something like number 9, if you're going to solve this by taking the square root, when can we take the square root? When x is what? By itself, when it's alone. So in a case like this, what would you do to get x squared all by itself? We're going to divide both sides by 4. So you end up with x squared equals, what's 24 divided by 4? 6, okay. Now is x squared all by itself? Yes, so what do you do to both sides? Take the square root, all right? So you're going to put a square root on here and a square root on here. When you take the square root of something squared, that just cancels. That's the inverse. So x equals, when you put the square root on, what goes in front of your answer? Plus or minus. Think about it, guys. The highest exponent tells you how many answers you have. If you have an exponent of 2, you should have 2 answers. Do we know the square root of 6? No. Is there a perfect square hidden inside of 6? No. So it's just x equals plus or minus square root of 6. That's it. This quiz is super duper straightforward. Yeah.
So like the plus minus one there too, like the 2.
Yeah, because it's squared. Yep. When you go to take the square root, then you have plus or minus. Because think, sorry?
If there wasn't a 2, it would just be
X equals this, yeah, the 6, yeah. All right, what about this one? This is under the solve by taking the square root. What do I do to both sides, guys? Take the square root. This is a binomial squared, so you're going to cancel it out. What you do to one side, you have to do where? To the other. So this becomes, this cancels, so you have 4x minus 3 equals, what goes in front of your square root? Plus or minus the square root of 18. Now, you have to solve this equation. We'll break down 18 in a second, but you have to solve this equation. What are the 2 things you're going to have to do to get x all by itself?
move the 3.
You got to move the 3, so you're going to add 3, and then what? Divide by 4. So there, you just told yourself what to do. We're going to add 3 to both sides. So 4x equals, I like to put the number first, so plus minus square root of 18. And then do what? Divide by 4. So So x equals, one last thing that we need to do is break down. What can you break down 19 into? 9 times 2. What's the square root of 9? 3. So this would be 3 plus or minus 3 square root of 2 over 4. If you get to this part here and you forget to break down the radical, it's maybe a point or two off. It's understanding that when you have a binomial, this is a binomial, 2 terms inside of a parentheses, squared. In order to undo it, you take the square root. Yeah.
How many questions like that?
2. 2 from each section, and then there's 2 that's just going to say solve, so you can do whatever you want. So then, let's do this section. This one says solve each equation by what? Completing the square, okay? I promise you the completing the square ones are going to be basic like this. Your A term, the number in front of x squared, is going to be 1, and your B term is going to be even, so it makes no fractions or anything like that. So how do we complete the square? First thing we have to do when we complete the square is take your constant and move it where? To the other side. Good. So when I take negative 86 and I move it to the other side, what does that become? Okay, so x squared plus 16x plus my square that I have to complete equals 86 plus another square. Because remember, what you do to one side of an equation, you do to the other. Now I have to figure out, I got to take my b term, and I say my b term divided by 2. What does that give me? What's 16 divided by 2? 8, all right? Everything we need to know is right there. What does my parenthesis look like on this side? I bring down the x, goes in the front here. What number goes in the back? What kind of 8? Perfect. And squared. And then how do I figure out what goes in the box? You have to square 8. We're going to square this number. What is 8 squared? 64. What you add on one side, you add on the other. So what is 86 plus 64? Write it over here, guys. 86 plus 64, 150. Okay. Now we're back to a problem that we just did. Do you have a binomial squared equal to a number? Yes. So what do? Take the square root. Take the square root of both sides. So you have x plus 8 equals, what goes in front of your square root? Plus or minus. And now I need to get 8 all by itself. What's the one step I'm going to have to do to get 8 all by itself? Subtract it from both sides. Good. So you have x equals negative 8 plus or minus. Now, if you can't break it down, you leave it. If you can, which you need to try to, see if we can break down 150. Think about 150. What goes into 150? Smallest prime number would be 2. 2 times what is 150? Okay. Does 2 go into 75? No. Okay. Does 3? How many times? Uh-huh. What does 25 break down into? 5 and 5. Okay. So do you see any number twice? 5. That's the perfect square that you can pull out. So you can pull out the 5. And then whatever's left over stays underneath. What's 2 times 3? 6. Again, if you don't get to break that down, minimal points off. If you can complete the square, that whole process, that's a majority of the question. If breaking down is where you get stuck, don't stress too much about it. What did I do here? I just went with prime numbers. Anything that's a pair is the perfect square that's hidden inside. So you just take it out. All right, let's do 14. One of your completing the squares, or both of them, will be a positive 1x squared, and the middle term will be even, so it makes it simpler. So what do I do here to complete the square? It's my first step. Move the 10. I'm going to move negative 10 to the other side, so this becomes x squared minus 14x plus a square equals, when I move the 10 over, what does it become? Positive, and then I have a square. Yes, sir?
Why you don't do like the thing where it's like the negative 10, like what side? Like why you don't
Okay, that's a good point. First of all, because it says you have to complete the square.
it would sound like that?
It'll tell you what to do. But if it just said solve, It's a good question. Nick said, why can't I just go, okay, try to factor it? We always want to try to factor first because that's the easiest thing to do. So if you think about the factors of negative 10, so I have 10, I have 1 and 10, 2 and 5. Are there factors of negative 10 that'll multiply to give me negative 10 but add to give me negative 14? So factoring doesn't work on this. What will work every single time is completing the square or the quadratic formula. But this is telling us we have to do completing the square, so let's take our b term. What is your b term, guys? What's the b term? Negative 14, and I divide it by 2. So negative 7. That's going to help me. That tells me everything I need to know. What does my parenthesis on this side say? X minus 7 squared. Good. And then how do I know what goes in the box? You square this. So it's 49. What's 10 plus 49? 59. Now we're back to what? How do I undo that square root? I'm sorry. How do I undo the square? Square root. I hate when I say the answer out loud. So this leaves me with x minus 7. What goes in front of the square root? Plus or minus 59. And then what's the last step so I can get my x all by itself? We're going to add the 7. Is there a perfect square hidden inside of 59? No. If you're not sure, write it down. 59. What goes into 59? 1. Okay. 2. No. 3. No. 4. No. 5. No. There's nothing in there. This is just be your final answer.
Do we have to like answer like that, or how we do on WebAssign where it's like
You can leave it like that. Yeah, WebAssign is super annoying for entering this. This is fine. Okay, let's go on to the next. So that's 6 of the questions, 6 of the 10. 2 solved by factoring, 2 solved by taking square roots, 2 solved by completing the square. It's going to tell you that. The next group, God bless you, is going to say solve using what? The quadratic formula. God bless you. So what do we need to know, guys? The quadratic formula. I'm going to go ahead and write it out here. X equals, tell me. Negative b. All over. Okay. You guys got to know that. Let's talk about the quadratic formula for a minute. Should you, when you evaluate this is called the discriminant. When you evaluate that, should you get a negative underneath the radical? No. Okay. You can't take the square root of a negative number and get a real answer. So if you guys are working this out and you get a negative underneath, you need to go back and say, oh, I missed something. I messed it up. So in a case like this, right? This is a quadratic. The highest exponent is 2. So there's several ways you can solve this equation. This is telling us that we have to use the quadratic formula. But I would always first try to factor. If it doesn't factor, you can use quadratic formula. You can complete the square, that sort of a thing. In order to do the quadratic formula, I need everything on one side, and your equation needs to be set equal to what?
0.
To 0. So what do I have to do with that 2? I got to move it. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. So I have 3x squared minus 7x minus 4 equals 0, correct? So what is my a term? 3. What's my b? Negative 7. And what's my c? Perfect. Now you have everything you need to plug it into that formula. I'm going to say x equals negative b, so negative 7, plus or minus the square root of negative 7 squared minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is negative 4, all over 2 times 3. Once we have all that in there, guys, you just simplify. What happens with a negative 7? Plus positive 7, good. Plus or minus, what's negative 7 squared? 49. A negative times a positive times a negative is going to give you what kind of an answer? Positive, good. So 4 times 3 is 12, and 12 times 4 is, what is it? All over, 2 times 3 is 6. Perfect. So keep simplifying. 7 plus or minus. What is 49 plus 48? 97. All over 6. Is there a perfect square hidden inside of 97? No. So there's your answer. You can leave it just like that. I know WebAssign wants 7 over 6 plus the square root of 97 over 6. 7 over 6 minus the square root of 97 over 6. I mean, if you want to do that, you can, but I'm fine with just leaving it together. All right, let's look at 24. How do they ask us to solve this? In this section, what does it say? Quadratic formula. So that means we need everything on one side set equal to 0. So what do I do with the 2? I'm going to subtract it. So I have x squared plus 3x minus what? 12 equals 0. Okay, so what's your a term? What's that number in front of x squared? 1. What's your b term? 3. And what's your c term? Negative 12. So x equals negative b. So negative 3 plus or minus the square root of b squared, 3 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 12, all over 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. So negative 3 plus or minus, what's 3 squared? 9. Negative 4 times 1 times negative 12. Positive 48. All over 2 times 1 is 2. Negative 3 plus or minus, what's 48 plus 9? 57 over 2. Is there any perfect square hidden inside of 57? No. So there's your answer. So 8 of your 10 questions, guys, they're going to tell you exactly what to do. So say you have a problem. Let me look. Hold on. Say you have these two, and it just says solve. That means you can do whatever you want. I think the first thing you should try to do is factor it, because that's always the quickest. It's the easiest. So in a case like this first one, what should I do with the 12? I'm going to subtract it. So I'm going to rewrite this as x squared plus x minus 12 equals 0. At this point, guys, you can do quadratic formula. If it just says solve, do whatever you want. If you just want to go right to the quadratic formula, you can. If you want to go right to completing the square, you can. I would try to factor first. Are there factors of negative 12 that when you multiply, you get negative 12, but when you add, you get a 1? Yep. X plus 4, x minus 3. If it factors, it's the quickest way to go about it. So what are your two answers in this case? X equals negative 4, x equals 3. Perfect. All right, so say then you get to this one, and it just says solve. This is already all on one side set equal to 0, right? So the quickest way that you could solve this, if it works, is to factor it. So let's check. 1 times 1. Are there factors of 1 that will multiply to give you 1, but add to give you a negative 4? No. So this is the case where you're like, oh, crap, I don't know what to do. You can complete the square, or you can use the quadratic formula. Either one will give you the same answer. I'll do both of them. If we're going to complete the square, I have x squared minus 4x plus a square equals, what do I do with this positive 1? I subtract it, right? I move it over, so this becomes negative 1. All right, so if we're going to complete the square, we're going to take our b term, which is negative 4, and divide it by what number? 2. That's going to tell us everything we need to know. What does my parenthesis on the left-hand side look like? X minus 2 what? Squared. Equals. How do I figure out what goes in my squares? I square this number. So negative 2 squared is 4. What you add on one side, you do on the other. What's negative 1 plus 4? 3. All right, whenever you have a binomial that is squared, how do we undo it? We take the square root. Good. So I have x minus 2 equals, what goes in front of my square root? Plus or minus. And then what's the last step I need to take in order to get x by itself? We're going to move the 2. We're going to add it to both sides. So you get x equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 3. All right. Some of you like completing the square. That's perfectly fine. Do it that way. Some of you are like, oh, I don't get that. I don't like that. I want to just use the quadratic formula. Can you? Absolutely. Are we already written in standard form? X squared minus 4x plus 1 equals 0. We're in standard form already, correct? What's my a term? My a term is 1. So a is 1. What's b? Negative 4. And what's your c? 1. Okay. So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So just plug in. I have negative 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 4 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 1, all over what? 2 times 1? Okay. So negative 4 plus or minus. What is negative 4 squared?
It'd be positive 4.
Yes, this would be positive. Sorry. 16 minus what? 4 all over 2. So x equals 4 plus or minus the square root of, what's 16 minus 4? 12 all over 2. Can I break down 12? So 4 and 3, right? So this is now 4 plus or minus 2 square roots of 3 over 2. Is that as simplified as it can possibly be? No, because remember, this is 4 over 2 plus or minus 2 square roots of 3 over 2. So when you simplify it, what's 4 divided by 2? 2 plus or minus, what happens to the second set of 2's? They cancel, so you have the square root of 3. Is that, guys, the same answer that you got there? Yes. The quadratic formula and the completing the square will work every single time if you have a quadratic. Completing the square is generally a lot shorter, but if you're not comfortable with the process, it's no big deal. Just throw it in the quadratic formula. So 2 solved by factoring, 2 solved by taking square roots, 2 solved by completing the square, 2 solved by quadratic, and 2 choose your own adventure. Okay, that's it.